Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Social Media Reacts here on Cluiche with me, Seamus Brady, your host. This is episode 4 of the Social Media React series, and obviously we had a very interesting weekend in the GA. Round 3 of the Allianz Football Leagues, all of the divisions now very much taking shape. We can see who is going to end up really in what positions in the division, who's going for promotion, who's going for relegation, everything like that. But yeah, before we get into this episode, this is brought to you by Capture Athletics. For any sportswear, for any GA wear, football wear, combat sportswear in the game, they're the best to go to. So make sure you check them out on Instagram at Capture Athletics. Thanks very much for sponsoring this video. So let's dive right in with the social media reactions to the GA world from across the weekend. And what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to start off by giving the credit to those who reached the official team of the week in the GAA from the Allianz Leagues from across the weekend. So we have it here. The GAA team of the week for round 3 of the Allianz Football League. Obviously in goal, Stephen Ryan from Clare. They had a great victory they had a fantastic victory. Their second win out of 3 games, a great win away against Offaly. In the fullback line, Paul McNamara, he scored the goal for Sligo as they got a victory again. Caleb Doherty scored 1-1 for Down as well. He's in left cornerback. Conor McCluskey also hit the back of the net for Derry. He's in at right cornerback. Jared Smith, very solid for Cavan in their victory over Cork and Porky Queeve. Sam McCartan at centre-back from Westmeath, and Darrow Boyle hit 2-3 for Donegal in their victory over Fermanagh. He's stationed at left half-back. Stephen Campbell and Brian Fenton are selected as the team of the week in midfield. Oisin Connaughty at left half forward is also Armagh. He was outstanding. He looked absolutely imperious in the first half against Kildare. Centre forward Ryan O'Rourke hit a hat-trick as Leitrim beat Wexford. He deserves a spot there at centre forward. Johnny Heaney at right half forward was immense in Galway's crucial victory against Tyrone. He really stood up and was a leader. And in the full forward line, Shane McGuigan, David Clifford and Conor O'Callaghan were all imperious in their sides' respective victories. Shane McGuigan hitting 11 points as Derry squashed Monaghan. David Clifford hitting 5 points, including that winner for Kerry as Kerry saw off Mayo. And Conor O'Callaghan was very good against Roscommon as well, hitting some eye-catching points throughout the game. So yeah, that's the team of the week. Personally, I don't have any disagreements with it whatsoever. And Smith deserves a shout. I think he was fantastic for Roscommon. He had his, trademark eye-catching runs from the midfield. But I would be happy enough to agree with that team. Now, one team that's not doing great is, of course, Kildare. They lost their 3rd game out of 3 matches. Aaron Prendergast, my good friend, the man behind Gaelic Games Fan TV, will start with his tweet. He said, "This might just be the worst Kildare team of all time. Credit to Armagh, though. They have been absolutely brilliant today." The worst Kildare team of all time, certainly it's as big a mess as I've seen Kildare in my lifetime. Like Kildare that I grew up with, the first time that I can vividly remember GA matches, watching them start to finish, would have been around the beginning of the Kieran McGeeney era, around 2009, 2010 and 2011. And that Kildare team was awesome. Like James Kavanagh, Emmett Bolton, Dermot Earley, Johnny Doyle. They sweat through the shirt, and you knew every time you're going out against Kildare it was going to be one hell of a game. And there were so many times that Kildare side should have beaten Dublin. Like 2011 in the Leinster semi-final, the late free that was given to Bernard Brogan probably wasn't a free. And Kildare were always there or thereabouts. 2010 All-Ireland semi-final against Down, Rob Kelly hits the crossbar. 2011, they're knocked out by Kevin Cassidy's wonder point for Donegal. So that Kildare side under Kieran McGeeney was solid, and they were unlucky that they didn't manage to take that extra step towards a potential All-Ireland title, or at least an All-Ireland final. They're probably the best team that I can think of recently anyway that didn't reach an All-Ireland final. You would questionably put maybe Monaghan in there as well. Definitely, actually, Monaghan of the 2010s, if they didn't reach an All-Ireland final. But it was absolutely crazy when you think about it. The Donegal 3 in a row and the Ulster titles as well, that definitely deserves a shout too. But it's crazy to me that Kildare didn't get more success with that team that they had. But nowadays, it's really flipped the other way. This is what we were saying, is that on the podcast with John McMahon, our weekend review, do check that out if you haven't already. It's a really good episode. We were talking about it and we were saying the players are there. There's no question about it. Kevin Feely, Daniel Flynn, Jimmy Hyland, Mick O'Grady, Kevin Flynn. These guys are cracking footballers. They're absolutely brilliant. There's no doubt in my mind. I've seen them be good. And when they were in Division 1 and when they had it going right for them, they were competing with the best teams in the country. when they do turn up, they can compete with the best teams in the country. And then on top of that, you have the under-20 successes that they've had. They won the All-Ireland at under-20 level in 2018 and in 2023, and they got to the final in 2022. Where are all these players? They've been beating Dublin more or less every year or two at Leinster in under-20 and in minor level. So again, where are these players coming through? Why have Dublin been able to get more out of those players that lost to Kildare than Kildare are able to get out of the ones that beat them? And the question is, Glenn Ryan, Dermot Earley, Johnny Doyle, Anthony Rainbow are all on the backroom team. If you're a Kildare footballer and you're not going to get up for a game for those lads, there's nobody in Kildare football that you will get up for a game for. So this is what me and John were discussing, what we were talking about. We were saying it's not for a lack of talent. It's not for a lack of star power in the management team. But there's something wrong there. There's a disconnect somewhere, which is unstabling the whole thing. And the reality is that there was no fight against Armagh. The minute that anything went slightly against them, heads down, and they never came back from it. And Armagh very, very much put them to the sword. And then after the game, Glenn Ryan actually had a bit of a fallout with one of the reporters. Colin Parkinson has tweeted about it here. Glenn Ryan quoted, "I don't think they were properly reported either. But look, it all these things come to the fore when things aren't going your way. I can only report on the conversation that I had with Mick Gorman. Mick Gorman seems to have told Glenn Ryan he was misreported. The reporter has the tape recording and is willing to send it to Glenn. What a mess." And I mean, that really sums it up, that Glenn says, "No, you got that wrong." And the reporter immediately is like, "Well, I have the tape of exactly what you said is wrong." And it doesn't look great. And the thing is that we've seen this across the board with not just GAA, but other sports, football, rugby. Whenever something is going wrong for a management team, they start pointing fingers at anything else, and then leaks start to come out and start to fall out with players left, right, and centre. Jose Mourinho at Manchester United is a perfect example of that. Like, that once it starts to fall apart, it can really fall apart quickly. And there might be a case of too many head chefs in the kitchen. Like Dermot Earley, Anthony Rainbow, Glenn Ryan, they're all people that you would expect to have actually managed Kildare one day and be the outright manager. They're good enough legends in their own right. Anthony Rainbow managed Ballybowden St. Enda's. Things like this that could point towards them being the manager. Glenn Ryan got the role because probably he was the best out of a lot of them. He was the centre half back and the captain and an absolutely incredible footballer. It just doesn't look great for Kildare, to be 100% honest. And to be honest, like, I don't know where they're going to turn it around. They've lost to Fermanagh, they've lost to Cavan, they've lost to Armagh. They still have to face Donegal, they still have to face Louth, Cork, Meath. I don't know where these points are coming from. I honestly think Kildare are going to go down. I don't see them turning it around. I think if they go into the Tailteann Cup, it will be a nightmare for them. It might do them the world of good because it did do the good for Meath. Maybe it can do the good for Kildare, but there's no question about it. They need to turn it around. Next one in here, Joe Briley comments on Dublin. Said Dublin had no Byrne Cup feel about them again, with one big difference. They kicked the ball into Con O'Callaghan. Like Kerry's Golden Years crew, winning the league is an embarrassment. They are not prepared to suffer. So yeah, not exactly one to hold back his opinions, Joe Briley. Look, I do agree to some point. Dublin didn't have, the same championship urgency, but neither did Roscommon. And there's a lot of clips of, hand pass, kick pass, and then the shot from the percentage area. That's just the way that the game is. And I don't like it, but it is the way that the game is. I wish that the game was a lot more helter-skelter, like the 90s games used to be, where you just stood and it was just you against your man and you try win your individual battle on the field to help your team out. That isn't the way that the game is played anymore. It's very much 15 lads against 15 lads, and they play the systems and they have shooters and they have everything like that. But it's gone a lot more like basketball, where it rotates who's in which position at which time. And that's the way it is. And that's what I mean, is that Dublin were taking shots from select positions. It was not 100% championship pace, which led to probably the lackadaisical feel. But Dublin still scored 119, and Con O'Callaghan looked incredible, everything like that. So Dublin still got the job done quite comfortably. Now, this was not nice to see, to be honest. Offaly obviously lost to Clare in the round 3 of the Alliance Leagues, but it was a Clare team that were willing to die for the cause, and Clare just shaded Offaly in O'Connor Park. And when the Offaly GAA Twitter account released the results, a lot of nasty comments were clearly there, enough to the level that it did irritate Michael Dignan. He says, "Thanks, lads, for your comments. No one on here has ever been inside an inter-county dressing room. You have no idea what these players do for their county. All of you should be very ashamed." I mean, didn't mince his words there, Michael Dignan. And to be honest, it's something that I absolutely agree with him on. These players are amateur players at the end of the day. Are their lives a bit cushier because they play for the county teams? Yeah, but they deserve to be. When you see the work rate that they put in, and when you see what they give, and you see that they take the cups and they go to the schools and they go to the hospitals and they help their local community. They've given so many people so many days of joy, exhilaration, and happiness. When they have bad days, which they will, I do not respect in any way, shape, or form any person who attacks the person who is the player. Because players are people at the end of the day. And a lot of fans get that mixed up and they criticize the players as people. You don't do that. You do not do that. And Offaly put their heart into that game. They came out the wrong side of the result. Clare are not a bad team. Clare have been up in Division 2. I know that they've been missing a lot of players. But Offaly are a team in transition. They got a new manager in there. They've got all these young lads like Cormac Egan, Jack Bryan coming through. If you want to make Cormac Egan and Jack Bryan leave, carry on with this negativity. See who wants to stay to put up with this. What do you think? Do you think they're going to win the whole Division 3 and win the Leinster Championship in their first year? No. This is going to take time for Offaly to get back up the levels. So they're going to have a bad result here and there. And I completely agree with Michael Dignan. Anybody who goes after GA players on social media, online, criticizes who they are as a person, you can say one thing about the performance. You can say that they didn't turn up. That's fair enough. But you never go for the person. If you go for the person, I don't really respect that, to be honest. So I agree with Michael Dignan's comments there. Now, moving back to Carol Kane, he says, nobody likes the attacking mark, but if it wasn't in the game, would it just mean there'd be less kicking? Coaches would actively discourage the kick pass if the mark didn't exist. It's such a soft score, but if there's no mark, they just run the ball. What's the lesser evil? It's a great, great point made by Carol Kane. The lesser evil is the attacking mark. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but the lesser evil is the attacking mark, because before the attacking mark came along, there was no kick passes into the full forward line. The attacking mark incentivized them to kick the ball in. Now, look, they could, make it a little bit more adventurous, that the kick has to be outside the 45 to inside the 21. That is something that they should probably look at, so that the kick is then most likely a very ambitious kick with a very, very good, solid catch that deserves a shot at the posts. But if you think to criticize the attacking mark, just remember how bad it was before the attacking mark came along, where nobody would take a risk in any way, shape, or form. So it's a great point made by Carol Kane. Back to Joe Brolly now. He talks about Derry. Derry, like the 93 group, are ferocious and rampant. Stung by last year's semi-final defeat to Kerry, the boys are taking it very personally. Anger is excellent fuel. It definitely seems that way. And not only do Derry have a point to prove, crucially, Mickey Hart has a point to prove. A lot of people before he left Tyrone were saying things like, Mickey's not the man to take them on to the next level. Mickey's not the man anymore to bring them to an All-Ireland title. And the year after he left, Tyrone won the All-Ireland title. And a lot of people at the time were saying, good decision made by Tyrone. It was hard and all that. And Mickey would have probably felt like a lot of people were writing him off as a top manager now. He's come back in. He had a great time with Louth. He left in very, weird circumstances. Louth GA announcing that he'd taken the Derry job. He left on a sour note. But him going to Derry, there's no question about it. He wants to lay down a marker. He wants to make a statement that he is still one of the best managers in the country. He's already done that with Louth, but now he wants to rub it in, I think. He wants to win the All-Ireland and he wants to win the league with Derry. And Derry have started with bad intentions. 3 wins out of 3. They beat Kerry away from home in round 1. They really made little fuss out of beating Tyrone and Celtic Park. And then they squashed Monaghan in round 3 as well. They are coming with bad intentions, as I said. And moving on to the next tweet that we have here. So this is from Carol Kane again. He talks about the Cavan win. He says, big win for Cavan down in Cork. Raymond Galligan has had a very settled start to life in the hot seat. Unlucky not to take something off Donegal in their last game. Cork with 0 points from 3 games and in real danger of a Tailteann Cup this summer. That absolutely is correct again. Like Cavan under Eamon Gallagher, I was personally worried that again it would be too many head chefs in the kitchen. That it would be, Eamon Murray trying to pull one way, Stephen O'Neill trying to pull the other, Eamon Gallagher trying to keep it all together. It hasn't. It's really ran smoothly so far. They were very impressive in round one against Kildare. They were very impressive against Donegal, albeit they lost, but they pushed Donegal to the pin of their collars. And then round three, they go away to Páirc Uí Chaoimh against a Cork team that were desperate to get the win, and they beat them. Cork, on the other hand, 0 wins from 3 games. They lost to Donegal, then they lost to Louth, and they lost at home to Cavan. They still have to face Armagh. They still have to face Meath. They still have to face tough tests ahead of them. And like it is a worry for Cork as to where do these league points come from. The game against Kildare and the game against Meath is massive for these counties because they do not want to be down in Division 3 again. Kildare, I think, are probably a little bit more all over the place than Cork are. Cork have, the goodwill of last year, getting to that All-Ireland quarter-final last year. They have a little bit more behind them. But I don't think the management team is in as much disarray as the Kildare one is. So it would probably tilt to Cork to take that right now. But they aren't in a great position themselves either. And Tailteann Cup football definitely looms if they don't turn this ship around. Now, the final tweet that we're going to wrap it up on, obviously Rory Beggan continues chasing his NFL dream. This tweet from Colin Parkinson. Holy crap, Beggan from downtown. If you haven't seen this video, I can't show it to you there because that's a screenshot. But if you haven't seen this video, go check it out. The fella booted over the bar from miles out. 66 yards was the distance that Beggan kicked it from in his warm-ups, in his trials. Beggan's probably going to make it, which is something that is absolutely extraordinary. He's not going there for the experience. He's not going to the trials just to come back and say, oh, I went for it. He's going to the trials because he genuinely believes he can get there. And why wouldn't he? Some of the scores that Rory Beggan's kicked from frees have been genuinely some of the best frees I have ever seen anybody take. Yeah, I absolutely wish him the best because he would absolutely make not just himself, not just Scottstown, not just Monaghan, but he would make the GAA and Ireland proud of him as he goes over to the NFL. So best of luck, Rory. Guys, that has been Social Media Reacts episode 4. Just briefly went through a few tweets looking back at the weekend's action. Don't forget, guys, this episode was brought to you by Capture Athletics. If you need any athletic wear, any sports wear, go check them out on Instagram at Capture Athletics. Thank you for sponsoring this video. Guys, that's been all from me, Seamus Brady. Until the next episode here on Cluiche, make sure to check out our weekend preview on Wednesday. But until then, take care.